Topic of today's discussion is the reason you're not successful. Now, I know that we've done previous episodes, or I think we have, on, how to make more money, how to make your first six figures, character traits that you need in order to succeed. If you haven't seen that, we could probably pin it under this episode, so that way you can watch that. But I think that more importantly, or just as important, you need to also know the reasons of why you're not successful. I think that's, the cliche saying of success leaves clues. That is true. But the other side of that is that what good are the clues if we're not actually applying it to unlock the mystery of what success is, right? And so with that in mind, I want to break down how many we got today. We got 4 different reasons of why you're not successful. Let's jump right into the first one, and that's this. And I've struggled with this one for some time. I know that it may not seem like it because I get, people tell me all the time, you're so consistent. I've had to build that muscle, believe me, and that's focus. Now, I'm not going to speak to some of us that feel like we have ADD or ADHD. I'm going to let you deal with that specifically, right? But I'm going to speak to those of us that even if you feel that you have ADD or ADHD, or if you don't feel that you have it, you still lack focus, right? I haven't been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, but I think that all of us lack focus for a couple of reasons. I'll give you really mainly 2. One of the reasons why we lack focus is we just flat out don't believe in the mission that we're working on. Now, I know that you might be thinking to yourself, but Irv, I want to leave an impact. Irv, I want to make more money. Irv, I want to build a bigger organization. Irv, I want to set my family up to win. But do you actually believe that? Like, really think to yourself, if you were obsessed about the mission, if you were just encapsulated by the vision, would you be breaking focus just to play PS5, just to play Xbox? I was talking to my video guy, and he and I share a common trait, and that is we both have PS5s, but we haven't really, at least mine is like still unplugged, like shameless plug. I have a PlayStation 5, right? So does he. He recently got his, and we were talking, like, he tells me, dude, I've barely been able to play. I've played it once or twice since I got it. I told him I haven't really played it in a couple of months, even though it's there, right? And I think the reason for that is because he's out there, at least I see him out there, he's making moves. And he's so focused and committed on just everything that he does over on the video side, sharpening his skills with the clients that he works with and just building up even his brand on that side, that I see a lot of myself in what he does because I'm there as well. I'm out here, we're creating content. We're building out the Inside Inner Circle, our coaching program. We're building out a second offer that we want to lay on top of that. I also have my clients, I have my family. And so I am just obsessed and I'm focused on the things that I want to work on. And so, if I wanted to go away and stray away from that to play a PlayStation 5, I start to think to myself, damn, 2 hours on this is going to take me from 2 hours where we can build out another product, 2 hours where we can have a whole training with our team, 2 hours where I can make something better inside of the program that we offer, 2 hours that we can record 6, 7, 8, 9 podcasts, depending on how we're feeling that day, right? And so I start to think of, and I start to play around with time in that way of what else can we get in terms of a return or a measurement on our time with. The second thing that I think that why some of us lack focus is that we are thinking to ourselves that what we actually want to get out of success, it's just gonna happen right there in that instant. And what we don't realize is that it could take a little bit longer than you think. And so my whole thought process, whenever someone tells me, how fast can I, make this amount of money in 90 days, I automatically think to myself, this person is gonna fail. Because if they're already putting constraints of, 90-day increments, 30-day increments, is there a time and a place for that? Yes, but if you have to ask yourself, when Steve Jobs was building Apple, do you really think that he thought to himself, if I don't do this in the next 90 days, I'm shutting the whole operation down? No, why? Because it's a life-changing movement that's taking place, even though to you it might not feel like it, and at the beginning it may not feel like a life-changing movement, and it may not necessarily change the entire world or the landscape, but it could change your world. And if it changes your world, then it's definitely worth doing, and worth doing over a long enough time horizon. And so I started to think to myself, okay, and I stole this, I actually got the book here. I stole this from Peter Thiel. And he says, if you can't see that business being in place for a decade, don't even start it. And that to me just like reshaped everything else that I was working on. It shaped everything else that I was kind of planning, right? We start all of these half-built bridges that we start working on because we want to focus on, oh, well, I want to build this, but I also want to work on that. But I think that this can also give me an income source versus focusing on that one big picture, that if that one big bucket gets filled, we can then use that big bucket to fill all of the other little buckets up, right? The second reason why you're not successful is you're too emotional. Now, I don't want you to be robotic in terms of I don't get mad, I don't get angry, I don't feel, right? Super robotic. No, you want to feel. You want to get mad. You want to feel that emotion. This is what it feels like when a deal doesn't go through. This is what it feels like when a deal does go through. This is what it feels like when someone leaves my team. This is what it feels like when we find a rock star. This is what it feels like when we accomplish the goals that we set out to hit, our quarterly goals. This is what it feels like when we don't accomplish our goals. The reason you want to have your feelings there and you want to validate your feelings is because you know what it feels like to win and you know what it feels like to lose. I want to speak to two different types of people. Those of us that absolutely hate winning, we will do everything in our power to forbid ourselves from ever losing again. And so if you're someone that you hate losing, you're going to do everything in your power to never lose again. If you're someone that you're just driven by winning, and I just want to win, and I want to win at all costs, then you're going to do everything to get that feeling again, get that hit again. This is why it's so difficult for guys like Tom Brady to go retirement, come back out of retirement, because they're just addicted to the drive. They're addicted to the hunt. Now, obviously, can it go overboard for some people if you don't have any parameters built around it? Yes, but I'll leave that part up to you of up to what point can the obsession kind of like take over everything else that you're working on, right? I'm not here to tell you, hey, work on your business 24/7 and leave your family astray. And I'm also not here to tell you, hey, just hang out with your family and leave your business astray. You need to find that balance. And I don't believe in balance because I think that everyone has their own measurement of balance. What works for me may not necessarily work for you. I can give you some tips. I can give you some pointers of what works for me. But my family dynamic is so different compared to your family dynamic that it may not even serve you as well as you think. Number 3, if you are looking to, again, succeed, or rather, if you're trying to find out why you're not succeeding, rather, right? We're thinking inversely here. You keep watching other people. Now, if you're too busy watching other people, I'm a big advocate, and I think there's a big proponent to when we're watching other people, can we learn from them? 100%. But if you're always watching what someone else is doing, then unfortunately, you're not spending enough time watering your grass here on this side. If I'm only watching what my competitor is doing across the street, what they're doing really well, what they're doing really poorly, am I taking notes on that? Yes. But am I more obsessed with what they're doing on their end? Absolutely not. We'll glance over, we'll see what's working, we'll take a look at how the market is responding, and then we'll reassess. But the issue that I have with that, if you're not careful, especially for those of us that are newer to business, newer to entrepreneurship, is you'll start to watch someone from afar, what they're doing, and then you'll mimic them thinking from your perceived angle that what they're doing is working because look at the amount of likes that they have, look at how many comments they get, look at how many sales they're driving, look how successful they appear. But what you don't realize when you pull the curtain back is that the likes that they get may not necessarily always turn into dollars. The comments that they get may not necessarily be the type of engagement that you want to get for your business. If you think that how they're running an organization and how they're running their business is going to make your business more profitable, I can tell you right now, this is a lesson that took me far too long to learn. If you think that pricing something or going into a pricing war based off of how they're pricing something is going to serve you, you're sadly mistaken. Here's why. When you pull the curtain back, you'll start to see that they're running on thin margins because they may not have a back-end operation set in place. And so you may think that, okay, if they priced it at 197, let me price it at 149. That way I can pick up the other portion of the market share. That could be mistakenly wrong because they could be on their way down to zero, on their way down to the bottom. I see it all the time. And my prediction is that we're going to continue to see it going into 2023. I think a lot of people got spoiled, a lot of people got fat, and a lot of people got lazy in business because business was coming to them because we had so much money flowing through the economy in 2020, 2021, even in parts of 2022. We're starting to see that shift at the time of this recording. We're recording this in November 2022. going into 2023, if you're listening to this, potentially 2024, depending how alive this podcast still is, I think that you're going to see a lot of what we call people on social media, businesses that were just booming, you're going to start seeing them go out of business. Now, I hope that they don't. I hope that they're able to reinvent themselves. But that happens whenever the tide gets pulled back, in the words of Warren Buffett, and you see who's swimming with their trunks off, right? And so watch them, but still don't price things based off of how everyone else is pricing it, because your margins at, let's say, $200 versus their $197 could be significantly higher than theirs. But since you're so busy watching them, you're starting to neglect, and you're not watching what you're doing over on your side. And the fourth reason why you're not successful, and we'll close it out with this, is that you're saying yes to too many things. I think that if you're saying yes to too many things, then you end up saying no to the things that are most important. That's usually the trade-off that happens. And so if I'm always saying yes to going out, hanging out with my buddies, hanging out with my friends, then I'm most likely neglecting my family, and I'm most likely neglecting the work that needs to be done here on this end. Let's work that inversely. If I'm always working in my business, and I'm always in my company meetings, and I'm always at the gatherings, and I'm always involved in every sales call, and I'm not actually working on building everything out, and I'm saying yes to every client that comes on board, I'm saying yes to every sales meeting that I get tagged on, I'm saying yes to every opportunity, then you're neglecting potentially your family, right? It's always a two-way street. I don't always want you to think that, you always have to be 100% in with your family, because you're going to neglect your business. And you can't always be 100% with your business, because you're going to neglect your family. Again, when you are saying yes to too many things, you have to think to yourself, okay, if I'm saying yes to this, what am I saying no to? And it's funny, because oftentimes the things that we're saying no to are the things that we most likely want to do the least, but it's most likely going to move the needle forward the most. It's so interesting how that works, where we never want to say yes to the thing that matters the most. Real life example. Alarm hits 5 a.m. I want to say yes to going to the gym, getting my cardio, getting my workout in, right? But I say no to that, and I say yes to the snooze button. It's now 6:30 a.m. and now I feel like the day's kind of beating me. And you can insert any example that you want. I'm just giving you a real life example. I feel like the day's beating me because it kind of breaks that rhythm. It breaks that routine, right? I know that a lot of people say there's no such thing as a routine. There's no such thing as a rhythm. But when you look at them, they still have a routine. They just have a no routine, right? They don't do the same things every day that they are supposed to do or that they don't do. But again, that's a side note. 6:30 hits. You're not kind of scrambling around. You gotta take the kids to school. You're on your way to that first meeting. You didn't prepare your presentation. You didn't get your notes ready. You didn't really study enough to know about the product or the service that's being offered. Whatever the case is, all because you decided to say yes to something that should have been a no, and you said no to something that should have been a yes. Now, again, I'll let you decide what those decisions are. Just know that normally the things that we say no to are the things that we should be working on. Quick recap. The reasons you're not successful, 4 of them. We're not focused, and we're not focused long enough. We're too emotional. We need to be a little bit more just flatlined about winning and a little bit more flatlined about losing. Feel that and then move off of that. Don't let it hold you back. The third one, keep watching everyone else and what everyone else is doing when you should be focused on you and what you're working on your side. And then lastly, you're saying yes to far too many things. Get comfortable with saying no. If you found value in this content, you know what to do. Consider hitting the subscribe button. Leave us a 5-star review. But other than that, I will see you in the next episode.